Anybody have a crying 5-year-old? Right? Yes. Now, why would that be? Well, there's a lot of reasons for it. Some of them are the vulnerabilities, right? Tired, over-sugared, okay, that kind of stuff. That might be enough. It's also possible that, this is a great day that's just ended. Oh, just ended. I just stopped doing something that was enormously wonderful, and now I don't have it anymore. That's a lot of sadness. 5-year-olds don't know how to deal with sadness so well. Most of them haven't learned how to deal with so much sadness. So they feel really sad, and really tired, and really over-sugared. So if your 5-year-old isn't crying, you've got a very resilient, non-BPD 5-year-old. Okay? Does this make sense? Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Now, when the 5-year-old says, I hate you, okay, now, I gotta say, I've worked with parents who sometimes that feels to the parent like a dagger in their heart. It feels like they actually take that as a serious statement. And then they respond with something like, how dare you say that after I've taken you to the beach and shown you the time of your life, you little ungrateful snot, and you're telling me you hate me? Well, I'm never taking you to the beach again. Well, that's a lot of invalidation in one sentence, So you've got this kid who's already dysregulated, and then you're invalid. You see where I'm getting, right? So it makes sense for that parent, although it makes perfect sense. Well, sure, 5-year-old says, I hate you. That doesn't feel good. Unless somehow you have this transactional model in the back of your mind, which nobody does. Right? I mean, who would? And then you respond with, how dare you, don't use dare, But in fact, that's not accurate expression. What that really means is, I had a wonderful time, and now it's over. And I don't have the capacity to deal with that much sadness and all this all at once. Plus, I'm over-sugared and overtired, which makes I can't even think straight. Now, you'd have a really weird 5-year-old who said that. But that kind of accurate expression would be easy to validate. You see? Okay. So what we have to do is inhibit any other response, okay, in the face of this inaccurate expression, because we are likely to make things worse. So this first thing is stop making things worse. Okay? That's the first step. Now, anger is tricky. Okay? Anger is a term that we use very broadly, but mostly when we talk about anger, we include a lot of judgments in it. And when anger is conveying judgments, people don't respond well to it. Nobody likes being judged and criticized. And so anger, especially the kind that includes judgment, is really corrosive in relationships, even if it's justified. Okay? Plus, even if it's justified, even if anger makes some sense without the judgment, there's still almost always other emotions that are relevant when anger is also justified, like being disappointed, being sad, okay, things like that. So anger is something that we have to help parents actually inhibit an angry response. Not necessarily the emotion, but inhibit an angry response, verbal response, and then sort out the emotions. Okay? So what we're going to do is first inhibit this escalating response. Just like take a step back, don't say anything. Okay? Then start to manage arousal, reduce distress by doing physiological interventions like breathing, deep breathing, which actually helps people re-regulate their emotion. Distraction, self-soothing, self-coaching. There are a lot of things in DBT and non-DBT that people can do to actually just come back down. Okay? Then we want to say reduce the stimulus or stimuli that are making you distressed. So take a few minutes away. Focus on something else. If you've got a 5-year-old, you probably can't focus on something else. You probably can't just dump the kid on the side of the road, okay? But you can focus on something else. You can focus on driving. You can put some music on the radio. You can focus on the music for a few minutes. That allows our brains to cool down. And then come back with description without judgments, like in your own head. It hurts my feelings. Now we're not talking about a 5-year-old. Now we're talking about a 15-year-old who says, I hate you, you're the worst parent ever. Okay? Anybody ever hear of such a thing? Yeah, it could happen. Okay? So, okay, if you're descriptive and let go of judgment, you might say, geesh, I know my teenager's really upset right now. And it's saying things that are kind of hurtful to me too. I don't really like that. All right, that's reasonable. Okay? And then take your own emotions seriously. Like, I don't like this. This isn't fun for me, and I don't know what to do. That's descriptive. Okay? And then, of course, you can remember, like, okay, even though my teenager is saying something that's provocative that I don't like and I'm upset about it, I still love my child. Now, this is very important, remembering this relational context, this relational goal. This is still my child that I love and adore. Maybe I don't feel that love and adoration so much right this second, but I know it's true, right? Okay? Just like, I suspect that there's something that you know is true that isn't in the room right now for you to notice, but it's still true, right? You got a pair of shoes at home that you're not wearing right now. Okay, that's true, even though it's not here in the room. You can know, I do love my child, just not right this moment. Love is a verb. I'm not feeling it right now, but I know I have the capacity for it. Okay? That's where the and comes in, being able to say, I don't like what my teenager's saying right now, and I absolutely adore my teenager. They're both true. Because if we lean in one direction, only that I really don't like what you're saying to me, that gets us to wag the finger and probably be punitive and escalate. Not so great. If we only go to the other side, oh, I adore my teenager, then we don't actually do anything to help the teenager regulate, maybe express him or herself more accurately, and plus we're not taking into account our own limits. Like, I don't really appreciate, putting a lot of time and effort and love and maybe money into having a great day and then being criticized so heavily by you. I don't like that. So we got to have both parts because both parts are valid. All right, so that's where we typically would start. Very practical skills, all designed to not make things worse. Number 2, now, if I can manage my emotion, if I'm not dysregulated, now I can bring my attention to the other person, descriptively. What's going on for you? We're in a transaction. And so what you just did hurt my feelings, so if I do something that makes you feel worse, what comes back to me is going to be worse. So if it's only for self-preservation, how about I don't do that? If I don't want to feel worse, then maybe I want to not attack you right now. Even if it's just for self-preservation, for no other reason. So we call this opening your mind before you opening your mouth. Okay? These are words to live by. Okay? I don't know if you get this cartoon here. This is Jeremy and his mom. And they both say simultaneously, I can see you, I can hear you, yet I cannot comprehend anything you say or do. This is the inaccurate expression, okay, to which we have to be careful not to respond with invalidation. Okay, so this second thing requires relationship mindfulness, okay, being able to pay attention to the other person on purpose, right now, without being judgmental, bringing our attention to the other person. Like, I can see that you're really miserable. When I cut through, you just said you hate me, but I can see, wow, you're really miserable. You're really unhappy. Okay, that's a good start. That's descriptive. I'm not saying you shouldn't be, because that's not true. If you are, you should be. I mean, not in the sense of we prefer it or like it, but it's real, right? I mean, if you're in this room, you should be here, right? Because you came up the stairs or came up the elevator and walked through the door, so you should be here. You can't say you should be someplace else. No, you shouldn't, because you walked up the stairs or the elevator and you walked in here, so you should be here. Even if you forgot that you're supposed to be at your cousin's wedding, you're actually here, so you should be here. I wish you were at your cousin's wedding, but that's a different problem. Okay, staying descriptive, what do we notice? Not getting stuck in concepts or judgments. And a lot of shoulds. Finding the want, what do I want, not what should you do. What would I like you to do? That's a preference. That's different. You have a right to your preferences. Everybody does. There's no should. There's prefer, but there's no should. And, again, remembering this is somebody you love and you want a good relationship, and you might even consider physical closeness or touch. Now, this may be a time when it's difficult to do that, but anybody ever had an argument last more than 2 or 3 minutes. Anybody have an argument that maybe went on for a couple of hours or a couple of days? Anybody ever have one of those? Right? So this is where you could actually just sit down on the sofa next to your teenager, just so that your shoulders are touching. Just that physical touch in a non-threatening way does all kinds of things. I'll show you what I mean. So just take out your index finger. Okay, everybody, take it out. Okay. Now, touch fingers with somebody next to you. We call this ET mindfulness. Okay. Okay. Now, what do you notice? I don't just notice. Okay. Yeah. Long hum. You know, you got to like, right? Now, what did you notice? I just asked you to touch the person, just with the tip of your finger. Did anybody notice anything? What happened? Where'd your attention go? It went to the other person, didn't it? Right? Okay, now stop it and pay attention to me. But this is the kind, even a fingertip like that, which is very non-threatening, maybe a bit odd, but not in any way provocative. Even a simple touch like that can be nice. It's like bringing attention. Okay, you're here, I'm here, in a non-threatening way. And then, of course, reactivating your relationship. Like, okay, are there things that we could do that don't involve avoiding each other, being mean to each other? Like, just sit in the room and eat breakfast together at the same time. We don't have to talk. That's a kind of exposure. Okay? In technical language, by this point, the other person has become an aversive stimulus. Right? And nobody wants to be, an aversive stimulus. Okay? And you don't want your loved ones to be aversive stimuli. So, you got to do exposure. You got to sit in the same room with the other person and have your brain recognize that nothing bad happens. And then our sensitivity and reactivity to the other person will go down. Then we're opening our mind, and then we can think about opening our mouth. And of course, we got to remember that what goes around comes around. If I want you to treat me better, what do I need to do? I probably need to treat you better, right? I might not like that. I wish it were different. I might wish that you would start it. But in fact, if you're not, I've got to. And if you're my teen, I absolutely have to, because I'm older, right? That's all. Okay, so that's 2 parts. The third part is bringing in, now that we're kind of paying attention to the other person, to bring in curiosity and kindness. That's a big step at this moment, but it's an important one. The idea is that there's a lot of fear that goes on in that moment. Like, where's this going to go? Is this going to be a disaster? It's already half a disaster. Is it going to continue to be a disaster? Instead of being on the defensive and playing defense, if we instead go to curiosity, we're not playing anymore. We're not playing a game to win. We're playing with each other. We're engaging with each other in just a human way. Curiosity. Okay? Curiosity, by the way, for those of you who know anything about DBT, is also an opposite emotion that actually makes it very hard, if you're genuinely curious, it's very hard to be very angry or very afraid. It's very difficult to do that if you're genuinely curious. So to be curious, you have to say, okay, so you just did something that I don't like. My team just did something that I don't like. What would get a person to do that? What in the world? Okay? My daughter, when she was in middle school, so she was perhaps 12 years old, she would do her homework in a homework sheet, and she'd do it out loud without writing it down, and then throw the homework sheet away, not turn it in. Which turns out it's hard to get good grades when you don't turn your homework in. Okay? Or she would do it and spitefully, so I thought, roll it up in a ball, throw it in the trash, and wouldn't turn it in. She did the homework in her head or on the paper, but she wouldn't turn it in. Not good for her grades. Why would she do that? I mean, I still have no idea, by the way. I have no idea. But the idea is that there's some reason, I actually do have some ideas, but it's too long to go into. But instead of saying, that's ridiculous, believe me, I tried this, you can't do that, you got to do this instead, believe me, I'm a psychologist. I should know how to handle this, right? Only badly. I know how to handle it very, very badly for about a year and a half. And then I finally, I was teaching parent skills one day, but maybe I ought to try this. And it turns out it was very helpful, okay? So what would make a person do that? What would get me to do this? And you can't say, oh, I would never do it. You say, no, really, what would get me to do it? And maybe I'd have to have a different temperament to respond that way. Well, okay, now I'm starting to think about what it's like to be you. You've got a different temperament. Oh, okay. You have a different temperament. That might contribute to your reactivity. Or, you might be lonely, and I'm not lonely. Or you might be overwhelmed, and I'm not overwhelmed. Or that wouldn't overwhelm me, but it does overwhelm you. Oh, I get it. We're different people. Interesting. Okay. What would get me to do that? Now I'm starting to bring that curiosity and kindness back to the relationship mindfulness, and it's filling in some of the blanks. And I might still notice that I don't completely understand, but that's okay. I now know that I'm the one that's not understanding, not that my teenager's behavior, emotion, thoughts, whatever, are not understandable. It's just that I don't get it yet. And he or she might not be able to help me very much. We might not understand this for a long time. We might never understand it, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong or crazy. It's just going to be hard to not understand it. Don't forget, new behavior, to get another person to do something different, or to get ourselves to do something different, we have to learn it and nurture it. And punishment is not the way to do that, basically. We've known for about 80 years that punishment is the least effective way to train new behavior, okay? And punishment, especially consistent punishment, harms the relationship between the person giving out the punishment and the person who's being punished. And it doesn't help people learn new skills. Okay, that's helpful. All right. Number 4 is, okay, now we banished our emotion. We've brought our attention to the other person. We're still regulated. We've added some curiosity and some kindness, so the other person is actually maybe giving us a little bit more information that's getting closer to understanding, or understanding some parts of it. Now we can validate what we understand so far. Okay? Now this is interesting. We did a study a couple of years ago. We're interested, everybody's had the experience of being invalidated. And again, I think everybody knows this doesn't feel good. I call this my grandmother study, right? This is my abuela study, right? This is, and if she were alive, she'd say, they pay you to do this? Yes, they do, actually. And she says, I could have told you that. You didn't have to do a whole study. I could have told you this. Which is true, because she was a smart person. She could have told me this, but nobody did the study, so we did. What do? Well, we stressed people out. We invited volunteers for a study, and we told them we were going to stress them out, and we're interested in how people responded to stress. True. So we stressed them out. Now, the stressor, lest you think that we're completely sadistic, is we gave them arithmetic problems that were too hard to solve in the amount of time they had. So it's frustrating inherently, right? Nobody got a right answer the whole time. And we were fully prepared to tell them what was the wrong answer, even if they got the right answer. Okay? So they got wrong answer after wrong answer after wrong answer. But that's what it was, just arithmetic problems they got wrong. And so as you see, it worked as we expected. They got stressed out. This is their negative emotional arousal. And it went up, 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 up. This is after, I think, 3 or 4 wrong answers. They're getting stressed out. Now, negative emotional arousal over here is a bit of a cartoon slide, because it represents the same basic pattern. We asked for their self-report. We also did skin conductance. We did vagal tone. We did heart rate reactivity. We did a bunch of physiological indices as well. And they all show the same pattern. So I'm just going to show you the pattern. So they all got stressed out. But what they didn't know is that they had been randomly assigned to have either a validating experimenter or an invalidating experimenter, not about their math ability, but about their emotion about getting them all wrong. Okay? So the experimenter would say, stop at each one of these points and say, so how's it going? Put the papers down, make eye contact and say, so how's it going? So how's it going? Bad. Okay. Well, what do you mean? Now notice I'm maintaining eye contact. It was what? I'm sorry? You thought it was easy? It wasn't easy. No, of course it wasn't easy. You don't forget the whole point of this experiment was to stress you out.
That's hard.
It is hard, yeah, so the experiment's kind of working. Right? Yeah. Okay, now notice I'm smiling, I'm maintaining eye contact. How do you feel it? She feels better, but validated. Okay. Now here's but invalidating is different, right? So how's it going? She says it's bad and hard. So I break my eye contact and I look down, take a breath, then look back up and say, huh, really? Oh my God, she says, right, this doesn't feel good already, right? So what's the big deal? Yeah, I mean, you seem really freaked out about this. Most people don't freak out about this. And I'm being mean. Now she's going to attack me. Okay, well, this is exactly what happens in real life, right? So if we're validating, okay, and then we give her some more problems that she gets them all wrong, okay? And then we either validate or invalidate again. No, notice the green line, if we validate her in between getting all the wrong answers, look what happens. She acclimates. He gets 2/3, 3/4 of the way down. There's still a little bit of stress response left, but if we invalidate her, she can't get used to it. Nobody can. All right, so what this tells us is what my grandmother knew, which is that being validated soothes our negative emotional arousal, and being invalidated stresses our arousal. This is really good news for family members, because if we can soothe another person's negative emotion with validation, wow, have we got something powerful that we can do. So the idea, of course, is that even in difficult or problematic situations, there's something valid that we can do. So we're already paying attention without being judgmental. We can also acknowledge the other person's experience. It's valid in some way, even if we don't like it. Like I can see that, like you say, you hate me. You're my teenager, you hate me. I could say back to you, wow, I can see you're really upset with me. I'm validating the truth. That is valid. You are upset with me. That is true. I'm simply validating the valid. I'm not saying I like it, okay? Or wow, you're really something. Or I know you want, or I know you think, or whatever it is. Just acknowledging reality. We can also be curious again and ask more questions. Okay, so help me understand why is that bothering you so much? Okay? Well, what happened? What happened at school? And sometimes when the emotions make perfect sense, say, that makes perfect sense. Gee, anybody would feel that way. When you find out that the car almost ran me over, and you say, oh gosh, anybody would be scared. That's true. Anybody would be scared of that situation. And sometimes people express vulnerability, like, oh, I don't want to fight with you anymore. Okay, now that's an opportunity. Some people take advantage. It's kind of like they put their shield down and then the other person runs their sword through them. That's not the time. The time now is when one person's vulnerable. Honey, I don't want to fight with you anymore. To say, I don't want to fight with you either. Okay? To be vulnerable together. And of course, sometimes just to be behaviorally responsive. Just to do what's needed. To solve the problem. Now, some of the quick validating responses, because sometimes teens are more verbal than their parents. They can run verbal circles around their parents. Do you ever have that happen? And so sometimes as a parent, it's just good to have these 2-word responses that, again, when they're accurate and true, I know. Like, I'm so upset about blah, blah, blah. Oh, I know. That's a start. It's on the way, right? Or, of course. Of course. Oh, I'm not crazy. No, of course you feel that way. Of course you'd want that. Or, like, I don't understand anything. What happened? That's not really valid. I'm paying attention to you. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel what you're feeling, but I don't get it yet. Yet. What happened? Help me understand. Makes sense. Me too. Let's go. Let's solve this problem. Let's do what's needed. Now, it's good to notice, we just finished a study where we did some intensive weekend family connections training with parents. And this is how invalidation changed from the perspective of the teenager. This is the teenager's report of how validating or invalidating the parents were. And look how it went from more invalidating to less invalidating, just as a function of 2 days of family skills. And validation, of course, went from much, much lower to much, much higher just in this same period of time. But it's tricky because the focus on validating is to validate the valid, not invalidating the valid, not validating the invalid, and only invalidating the invalid occasionally after validating the valid a lot of times. And if you can say that really quickly in any language, you graduate, okay? The point here is, aside from being maybe a little silly, is that lots of people want to invalidate the invalid parts and they forget to validate the valid ones. That's called change. Invalidating, you hate me, don't you? No, of course I don't hate you. That's what your parents want to say. But instead, how about validating the valid first? Wow, I had no idea. Do you really think that? Oh my gosh, you must feel terrible if you have the thought that I hate you. No, of course I don't hate you, right? I validated that you're really upset, and that must feel terrible to think that I hate you first. Now, at least you know I'm listening. Then when I say, of course I don't hate you, there's an openness to it. Okay, and then finally we have to collaborate around conflict. Sometimes they're just problems that we have to deal with, and to choose our limits wisely. Everything isn't a problem. Maybe the kid having a clean room is not the biggest issue today, right? Maybe staying alive is a bigger issue, okay? Using rewards and reinforcement and not tightening control. Parents get scared and they want to control. They want to make it safe. But if kids are feeling overwhelmed and over-controlled, that just makes them feel more overwhelmed and more over-controlled. And so instead we want to be collaborative. How are we going to do this in both safely and in ways that you like? Okay? Staying firm on your limits and targets, but flexible about how to solve the problem. Committed to solving the problem, but not controlling off the solution. Parents can really get stuck here. They think of a good solution, but it's their solution. The kid wants to solve it in a different way. It may not be as good a way, but it would work. And it's a better solution because the kid feels some ownership over it. Okay, so there are, of course, muchas razones para tener esperanza. Quick data. I know I only have 1 minute. I just want you to know there's a lot of hope here. Look at this. This is boys and girls. The boys are the brown, the girls are the green. This is after about, this is about 3 months of residential care. And as you can see, their emotion dysregulation goes down, both boys and girls. Their depression goes down, their anxiety goes down, and we have an answer to how we can flip this around. Instead of individual distress and dysfunction and family distress and dysfunction, we can have individual well-being and health on one side and good parent-child relationships and a healthy family on the other side. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sedi. I can imagine that there are a lot of questions, right? But now we are going to take a break. Vamos a tomar un pequeño break. Regresamos a las 4:05 hora puertorriqueña para for Rican time, para poder entonces tener tiempo para la parte, ¿verdad?, de las preguntas y lo que quieran discutir. Es importante que cuando regresemos se va a seguir el formato de la fila, así que los que tengan preguntas ya claras, pues vayan acomodándose. Los esperamos.
Oh, that'd be, I didn't have it out there, right? I can get it. Okay. Thank you so much.
I absolutely love that it was kind of like an elective. It was like logical, but it was movies and technology. So I archetypes of the shadow and the light. It was, it's Harry Potter is such a dialectic. There's good and there's good and it was an amazing. I was like, I
say it's anywhere from